The information discussed in this PILCast episode are merely opinions and do not constitute formal policy or legal guidance of any kind.
Welcome to another PILCast, the video blog where we talk about important procurement concepts in 10 minutes or less. I guarantee it. I'm Sandra Oliver Schmidt with the Procurement Innovation Lab.
I'm Monty Thrasher, the program manager from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Centers.
And I'm Roger Charnock. I'm a contracting officer with the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center.
Now we're going to talk about the various ways that Monty and Roger work together to conduct robust market research for a recent requirement. Now, Monty, since you're the program office customer, can you talk about what it was you were interested in buying?
Well, the system that we're interested in buying or having someone to support is called the Student Administration and Scheduling System, or SAS. And FLETC supports 4 training sites across the United States. We graduate 70,000 plus students per year, and we support over 100 different participating organizations. So from all of that, we register all of our students. We allow the participating organizations any inquiries that they need to have about what training courses we have and what the student operations are. We complete scheduling, billing process, everything. We have about 1,500 users, and any single day there's about 500 users on the system. And again, that's across 4 different training delivery sites.
So this is a pretty major system.
It is a major system.
Yeah, it tracks a lot. Now, was your team, did you know you wanted to replace it? Or were you just not certain? What brought you to doing all the market research that you're about to tell us about?
Well, we were looking at either replacing the system or having another contractor come in and support the existing system. And we just tried to determine exactly which was the most feasible way to go and exactly what we needed to do to go forward.
Okay. So Roger, your program office customer comes to you as the contracting officer, and he's not sure if he wants to buy something new or not. How did you help him with his market research? Like, where did you begin with answering this question? Should you contract it out and replace it, or should you get support services? Well,
the first thing that we looked at the prior history, and we realized that we had issued requests for information for the previous iterations of the contract, and we only ever received the current incumbent contractor. So we went that route again, and we initially just put it on Federal Business Opportunities, and we got the same result. So we realized that we needed to do something different. And so with the second iteration of the request for information, what we did was we reached out to the Small Business Administration. We based it on FBO, but then we also based it on GSA. So we touched every form of government entry point to be able to get enough response. And it was an overwhelming response. It was actually more than we anticipated. And one of the biggest things that we wanted to make sure that we did was we asked some very pertinent questions on how the contractors could potentially either implement SAS or how they could have a program to replace SAS. And so these were yes, no questions. And so it brought a lot of information, and we spent a lot of time going through that.
Yeah, so you ended up having to put an RFI out twice is what I hear. And the second time by making those efforts to reach different companies is when you finally received responses. Do you recall how many companies responded to your second RFI?
Yeah, we had over 60 companies that responded.
Wow. So you went from a format with 1 response to a different RFI with 60 respondents. That's amazing. Now, what did you do with all that information? What was next for you?
Well, next we sat down with the entire project team and went through everything with our business owner, which is the executive for over SAS. And we sat down and looked at all the information that had been provided, the response that they provided, and we narrowed that down to a smaller list of organizations. And we decided then to hold an industry day in which we brought them in and held questions. We limited them to 2 hours, and they had an opportunity at that point to go through whatever they thought was the appropriate thing, just to convince us that they had the capability to fulfill the requirements. But prior to that, we sat down with each one of them and offered them an opportunity where I went over what the existing system did and how it did it, just to give them more information about what the system was. I walked them through a very long process of, showing them how to exactly what we had, allowed them to answer, to ask questions. And we had a long question and answer period there. And each one of them lasted about 2 hours. But at the end of it, they felt comfortable about what we had and what they needed to do to put in an offer.
That's incredible. So you had one-on-one conversations with vendors. You shared.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. How did that feel talking to vendors? Did you feel like you were doing something wrong?
Well, it certainly felt like I was not doing exactly, I'd never done that before. So it felt different. And I wasn't sure if what I was doing was correct. That's why I sought out a lot of information from both Roger as the contracting officer and the PIL, just to make sure that we were doing the right things.
Awesome. So it sounds like what do you think would have happened, I suppose, if you hadn't done this market research? What do you think would have happened if you just went out with a solicitation and hoped for the best?
First off, I think the solicitation to cover all the areas that I was able to cover, with the one-on-ones with them, the solicitation would have had to be 300 or 400 pages long. It would have taken forever just to write it, and then forever for them to read it and then respond to it. And this went through in about, just a few hours.
Got it. So you had in the end, ultimately, by talking to industry, what did you learn? What did you ultimately decide to do? Were you in a position where buying a new system made sense based on what's available in the market, or did you decide to stick with what you had?
Well, ultimately, we decided to stick with what we have,
okay.
And we maintained the incumbent contractor. But, we had an opportunity to look across vendors and make a determination based on, what was really available rather than just having that one.
So it sounds like even if you went out with a solicitation, the requirement would have been canceled due to vendors not really being able to meet the requirements.
It most likely would have been.
Yeah, a lot of sunk bid and proposal costs on the vendor side for sure, if that would have happened. All right. Well, it sounds like industry probably appreciated the conversation with you as well. Is that right?
I would say absolutely.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you both for joining. That's all the time we have for today's PILCast. If you like today's PILCast, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.